Welcome to the Star Wars Canon Cantina, a show where we try to answer the question, who is Luke Skywalker before the release of Star Wars Episode 9? How's everyone doing today? My name is Jesse, and I am on the Space Station Tulsa, planet Oklahoma, and I am here with my Star Wars best friend, Mike. Where are you at, Mike? What's going on?
I'm over here at Salt Lake Base on planet Utah, and we're supposed to answer who is Luke Skywalker. I don't know who I am anymore after reading the insane story that we're talking about today.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on this story as well.
I think I might have been quite literally driven insane.
Well, that's okay. I feel like we were meal prepped a long time ago when I read Heir to the Jedi. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
we got a race to the bottom.
This is probably not the last bad story we're going to cover, but this is definitely the second really bad story we've covered in my book. And
I feel like I've read this before.
I don't know if I have.
But I had no memory of it.
That's what it is.
Because how could I forget something so insane?
Yeah, and a little bit inconsistent with last episode, guys, where we did Dark Empire 2 episodes ago, because we did Yoda last week on the Marvel stuff. But even inconsistent with that, Mike, which is supposed to be the same story, it literally just feels like a cash grab.
I don't think we've actually said we're doing Dark Empire 2, the sequel to the Dark Empire comics run from back in the early 90s.
That's right.
And we're going to go ahead and throw on Empire's End, which was just a couple issues
to finish it off,
to tie it up, because they didn't actually finish the story in Dark Empire 2. So this came out in 94, written by Tom Veitch and illustrated by Cam Kennedy, the same two who did Dark Empire 1.
Right.
Tom Veitch also wrote Empire's End, but there was a new artist, Todd Klein, and it was a jarring distinction in Empire's End.
Yeah. The art change was...
Not necessarily like he was bad, but it's just very stylistically different.
Inconsistent with the original art. Well, before you get our Luke questions, Mike, you have anything else to say about this before we... I mean, you look drained. See, the good news is we got a lot of other fun Star Wars stuff to talk about today, guys. We're going to go through Dark Empire 2. It's going to be eventful, and this is why we're here. We bear the pain for you, and then you could just get to hear the story and move on to the next better story. In theory,
it's like physically draining to try and contain all of the details of this story in my mind at once.
Yeah, I feel like I've already lost it. So before we get into the story of Dark Empire 2, let's look at our Luke questions that we ask every time we do the show to examine Luke's character throughout this particular story. So question number 1, what state is Luke in as he begins his journey? How do the events and characters he encounters impact his development as a hero? Would Luke's experiences in this story make him different than the Luke we meet in The Last Jedi?
All right, buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
Oh, boy.
Ever since Luke disappeared, people have been looking for him.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
A lot of rumors, stories.
And I became a legend.
People that knew him best.
Luke. Young Skywalker. Luke.
It's all true.
I am a Jedi. Like my father before me.
All of it.
Okay, so we start the book not with Luke. It starts with a battle on Balmorra with Captain Veers, who's been... Is he General Veers' son? Has he been demoted? I don't know. Basically, the Empire's trying to take over a battle droid facility, and they gave this artist freedom to do what he wanted. Yeah. These droids...
Because it's clearly his strength, talking right? Like we talked about last time. This machinery.
Yeah.
Machinery, Terminator, 80s, heavy metal, Akira type stuff. I mean, a lot of that stuff going on, of course.
Right. Yeah. The Empire is attacking Balmorra with these SD9 attack droids that were built there. And
they're huge.
The SD10s are huger because that's what the Defender, the local governor of Balmorra, has. Basically, we've entered like Gundam / mech like sizes and styles of droids.
Just about.
Totally stylistically different from Star Wars. Yeah. So you know right off the bat that this is going to be a different story.
Right. And these battle droids are even more noticeably different than the battle droids we mentioned the first time, guys, in Dark Empire 1, where Luke comes out of the tunnels after his study time with the Sith holocron and the dark journals of Palpatine. And those battle droids were still pretty robust, a lot more robust than the battle droids we see in the actual canonical prequels, but they were not this big. This is pretty ridiculous. Yeah, this looks like small scale Gundams. That's a good way to call it, Mike.
Yeah. And the governor of Balmora had one more ace up his sleeve.
The new model.
The X1 Viper, not automaton, automadon, to make it look more like the word, like you're reading a dinosaur type of thing. Auto, MADON. It's like a big 6-legged bug droid that people can fit in that has molecular shields, because that's
Made up word.
I mean, I know Star Wars is not big on, science or accuracy or anything, but that just seems lazy even for Star Wars. So those play a part with some of the main cast, but we already know this story is going to be weird.
Yeah.
At this point, there's a new guy running the Empire.
That's strange. Yeah.
A character who we've not seen before, not even in Dark Empire 1. His name is Cedrus. He's leading the Empire because Palpatine supposedly died at the end of Dark Empire 1.
And apparently,
spoiler alert, Cedrus doesn't last very long.
Spoiler 2 is Cedrus. Apparently he's a Dark Jedi, and they throw that around pretty willy-nilly.
Oh, yeah. We're throwing around Dark Jedi
Left
and
and
Dark
right.
Force infusions left and right
Dark
here.
side and all that, yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently he's essentially, he's not a Sith, but he's some sort of dark apprentice of Palpatine or something. So just a temporary villain.
Well, and speaking of dark side being everywhere, the other main new thing we saw in this attack on Balmora was a shadow droid, which is described as the brain of a deceased, like shot down TIE fighter pilot floating in a jar, basically, that's been infused with the dark side of the Force. That's when you know we're cranking this thing up to 11.
Yeah, I love it. No, not really, but it's unique.
That's for sure. Not.
I do kind of like nothing having to do with the Force there, but this is just showing my true nerd colors, because I'm going to tie this to StarCraft 1.
I knew exactly what.
Yeah,
where
see,
you were going
that means you're in the same boat. So if you take out the dark side element in StarCraft 1, there's a race of aliens called the Protoss, and when their warriors fall in battle, they basically try to salvage their organs and whatever remains of their body that are still kind of barely there, kind of like organ donors type stuff, and they put them in these 4-legged machines called dragoons that are essentially machines of war, and they're kind of still controlling them a little bit.
There's an attempt to rescue the body.
Yeah.
There. These are literally
And the
described as Futurama brains.
Yeah,
and
this
jars,
is more
basically.
extreme. Yeah, the dragoons are actually like, they're more like Grievous, I guess, because the brain of the person and parts of the body of the person are still inside. They're still sentient. But yeah, these seem like this is, while the World Devastators were pretty cool, churning out drones, which I thought was cool. This is not. This is too, like, why don't they just do drones again? This is bizarre.
Yeah, good question.
I remember we said the parts that were too sci-fi at Dark Empire 1. Well, that I retract those statements. This is way more sci-fi than even the most sci-fi elements of Dark Empire 1.
Yeah. So let's hop to Luke.
Yes.
In the interim between Dark Empire 1 and 2, we don't know how long it's been, because this series plays it fast and loose with timelines and concurrent events happening anyway. But since Dark Empire 1 ended, he's gotten a new ship, which is called, it's not the Starlight Intruder. That's the one from the last book. What's this one called?
The Jedi Search? No.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I could look at my comic, but I read it on my iPad. My iPad is currently too dead for me to turn on. So it's charging. We'll see if it turns back on in a minute. But yeah, I think it's the Jedi Explorer. There it is.
There we go. Same sort of thing, yeah.
But he's had time to pick up a new ship, and he's found another Force user in the interim, Cam Solusar, a former Dark Jedi trainee by Cedrus, I guess, and some of these other guys. The first time we talked Dark Empire, we mentioned that it's very loosely, referenced in later Legends books. But this is a big deal because Cam Solusar is in a lot of Legends books, and this is his first appearance. This is where he originated.
Right. But I could be mistaken, Mike, and this is what's exciting about us actually getting to reread Legends in order and you guys to listen along at home. We have read this stuff, but I believe that Cam kind of gets reintroduced in the Jedi Academy trilogy, like almost like this never happened. Not in a way like, hey, what's your name? Like, just like the book says, here's a character. Here's what he is. You know what I mean? Here's some of his backstory. Yeah. So I think we're going to get a proper introduction to him and the actual, what I said, old canonical novels and these kind of comics are treated semi non-canonical back in the day. And that's a good example.
But, I mean, the character continued.
He does.
They did.
He's probably the only thing from this
that continues,
about actually that I'm thinking of now from this series.
But yeah, Luke and Cam show up to Pinnacle Base, which is the same base that the Rebels had at the end of Dark Empire 1. And basically, Luke disagrees with everybody else. Everybody else wants to intercept this shipment of these massive Viper automaton battle droids that are going to Biss, the dark heart of the Empire. They want to intercept them and launch a sneak attack on the Emperor there. Luke says, no, we should focus on helping me restore the Jedi instead and not go to Biss.
That's right. But then holocron things happen. They pull out the holocron and consult it, right? Like,
I think so.
They do. And this is okay. So I'm gonna back up for a second, Mike. So we've talked about this in the last episode, but once again, this time I skimmed the comic and listened to the entire audiobook, and Mike read the comic. So something we discovered last time doing the episode, because we don't, spoiler, we don't use like bullet points or outlines or anything. We just discuss. And if you guys were picking up last time, some of our discussion timelines were different from Dark Empire. That's because the audiobook has taken artistic liberties to move the story points in different ways. Still the same story.
Probably made it better.
Yeah, they probably made it better. As you guys saw last time, the audiobook had more Luke than what Mike experienced in the comic, and the Luke part was centrally placed to kind of keep the Luke story moving in a coherent way. And it was kind of spread out by these huge gaps in Nar Shaddaa and Mon Cal in the comic. So that's the same case, I think, with this second book as well, Mike. So I'm just going to preface and say that. But, you know, at this point, Luke and Cam do consult the holocron that Luke found from the Palpatine storehouse on Coruscant. And they hear from this Jedi Master.
Biss. They stole it from him on Biss.
Yeah, Biss.
In Dark
That's
Empire
right.
1.
Yeah. Sorry, that was the Sith holocron on Coruscant, or the attempts at making a Sith holocron, because Palpatine couldn't fully figure it out, which is interesting. Luke has those as well, though, and the Dark Journals. But they consult this holocron, and this Jedi Master appears. And he's an ancient Jedi Master called, if I believe I'm getting his name right, Bodo Bass.
Bodo Bass.
And the way he sounds in the audiobook is like John Rhys Davies from Lord of the Rings, Treebeard or Gimli, sort of that deep, accented voice that kind of is booming. I thought it was pretty neat in the audiobook, but essentially they comb through the information, and through the power of the holocron, Bodo Bass basically tells them a vision where they need to go to Ossus, and he gives them the coordinates to Ossus, which is a new planet.
So they learn they need to go there to because there's Jedi artifacts there. So this is another story where Luke splits off and does his own thing separate from everybody else. I'm going to try to give a very concise version of what everybody else does.
Okay.
So that we can focus on Luke.
Yeah, let's talk about, even though parts of the story are interesting, let's talk about how Han and Leia do the exact same thing they did in the first story.
That's right. They go back to Nar Shaddaa to look for Vima, the lady who gave Leia a lightsaber in Dark Empire 1. They find her. They fight Boba Fett again. Chewie pulls off his helmet
awesome.
and then turns his jetpack on, and Boba Fett flies up several stories and cracks his head on something, but somehow lives because he can never die in Legends.
That's right.
It's all very silly and takes entirely too long. Side characters that were introduced in Dark Empire 1, Shug Ninx and Han's old girlfriend, Sala, are still, they're back at Biss for some reason. It's dumb. I don't even remember
Pretty
why.
major parts, yeah. I mean, Sala's running like diversions for them and diversions for the rebellion and stuff just to help Han and Leia, which is interesting.
But the other prong of the story is Lando and Wedge, who don't necessarily feel like a natural pairing to me, but they're like, well, these are the other two favorite characters. We have to have them do something. They take on this mission to intercept this shipment of battle droids that is going to Biss for the Empire to use, and they essentially Trojan horse their way onto Biss, and they plan to use these battle droids to take out the Empire there.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. That's pretty consistent with those guys, those characters.
Yeah, but we're not going to spend too long talking about those separate tangents, because as a story like this does, everything comes back together at one point. We'll see them all again there, but we don't really need to talk about Han and Leia doing the exact same thing or the forced buddy cop comedy of Lando and Wedge.
Something I will mention, Mike, while we're here, is the overabundance and excessiveness of dark side users in this story.
That's true. I guess we should talk the extraneous stuff on the bad guy side.
Yeah, they show up and mess with Han and Sala, and a lot of them are with Cedrus. But there's more. There's more dark side users, and we're basically led to believe that these are, I mean, by the modern language, Sith acolytes. They're not even like apprentices yet. They're on their way.
Yeah. So Palpatine is reborn. He takes the last clone body because, oh, hey, let's just say Luke didn't destroy them all in the last book.
Cash grab and supersede the first story.
And we actually see Palpatine creating these dark side warriors. He's like, hey, you work for me. You're a dark Jedi now. And he infuses them with the Force and sends them out after people. It's pretty bad.
It's strange. It's strange. So there's an overabundance of them. So I had to mention that. So let's talk about Luke and Cam again, Mike. So Luke, Cam, and R2 are together. Mm-hmm. Once again, R2's
they take the Jedi. They take the Jedi Explorer to Ossus. Yeah. Ossus, however you want to say it. What they say in the audiobook.
Ossus. And Ossus will return in future Legends stuff. So maybe that's something worthwhile. A lot of the planets in these are important in the future. Biss, Ossus, Nar Shaddaa.
Yeah. So they travel to Ossus, and they find on the planet, it's not a deserted planet, but it's like decimated, hasn't been visited since the Great Sith War 4,000 years before the Clone Wars. Right. But they find something that is sort of similar to what Yoda found when we talked about Yoda's Secret War last week. He found a tribe of indigenous people that had their own connection with the Force. That's basically what Luke and Cam find here on Ossus. It's a tribe. What's the Yasana tribe? Ysanna.
Right, and like you said about last week, this is another great example of Force-sensitive people that are not Sith or Jedi, and that's something that I think Mike and I always welcome in Star Wars if it's done well. And it's pretty interesting, Mike, that we have these two episodes back to back. This was unintentional for us because, as you guys know at home, we're following two timelines sequentially, like next to each other, parallel. And this is just a happy accident. And that's pretty cool. And that kind of shows that, like I said, with the new canon, they're taking what they like and refining it and trimming the fat. And this might be an example of that. Just taking indigenous people that have an influence on the Force. taking the Night Sisters from the courtship of Princess Leia and doing what they want and making them different and things like that. So pretty interesting this happened. That's a good point, Mike. Good correlation.
Yeah, so they go there and they find this old Jedi library. Does that happen before or after the fight? It doesn't really matter.
I can't remember
because
the fight's pretty
that's
much
what they find.
right by it, yeah.
Yeah, they find this Jedi library with actual books in it. They even say that, oh my gosh, we haven't seen actual books in centuries or whatever.
So this is pretty important for Luke, right? Our discussion.
Yeah.
Events and characters and his
absolutely.
development. So he's kind of training Cam. Cam is a recently converted Sith acolyte to a Jedi Padawan. And
Yeah.
Cam's on this journey with him. And then
we just didn't have the word Padawan when this was written.
They did say Jedi Apprentice and all of this stuff, which is interesting. And so, yeah, they find this library, and this is, I guess, educational for Luke and Cam, of course. Even though Luke in this story still bothers me because he's so different from the Luke in the Thrawn trilogy.
He's so different from Luke in anything else we've seen. So they find this, library. Luke also decides to adapt a practice, I guess, of the old Jedi that we saw in Phantom Menace. He decides to take the two strongest, most force sensitive. I don't want to use the word children because that has bad implications later.
Right.
It's a brother and sister named Rafe and Jem. Yeah.
He's like, you guys will join the
he
Jedi
just kinda,
Order. Yeah.
And then he sort of uses the Force to influence their tribe to let them come with him. It's very not light side, very not Luke.
Yeah. It's really weird. And this is all kind of based off of that final statement Luke made, if you guys remember, in the last panel of the last page of Dark Empire, which is the Jedi Knights will rise again. He even gets Cam to start saying it, which is really weird. Not the Luke Skywalker we know in Legends or in Canon. So I'm not sure what's going on here. I understand that the author's like, hey, Luke's a stronger Jedi now, so he's going to start training people. And that was obvious direction of Legends, but this was, obviously Zahn wasn't thinking this in this way,
Yeah.
The way Luke approached Mara, even though he had a feeling she was force sensitive, was nothing like this.
Yeah. So then the bad guys show up.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Sith acolytes.
It's Cedrus himself and his buddy, who is given a name for no real reason because I think he lasts for like 4.5 panels. Gore.
Gore. So yeah, Luke and Cedrus fight.
And they are fighting near this old tree on the planet Osis. At first I was like, oh, I wonder if this is like the Jedi tree from Last Jedi. No, totally different. But Cam Solusar quickly dispatches Gore, and Luke is just like practically toying with Cedrus.
Because, we got this Jedi Master versus this, Imperial Remnant officer meets Sith Acolyte guy who's got a lust for power, who's not really that strong on the Force, really.
Yeah, so when Cedrus sees that he's beaten, he grabs Jem as a hostage and backs up against this tree. And then
that's right.
We've already cranked it up to 11. Now we crank it up to 12.
Okay, tell it. I'm waiting. I'm ready to hear your assessment.
It was not a tree that they were fighting.
It was an int. No, bring that voice back.
It was Groot.
Is Groot or Treebeard and Bodo Boss voice? Cue the Bodo Boss voice now.
This is the offspring maybe of Groot and Treebeard. I don't know. It's a sentient giant tree creature named Ood Banar, Oodbnar,
right.
Who's like, oh, hey, I've been here for 5,000 years or whatever.
Yeah, he's like a Cthulhu tree, kind of.
That's kind of what he looks like, yeah.
And this guy comes back, Mike, and the if you didn't know, because I've told you this, Tom Veach guy wrote all the Jedi Sith War stuff thousands of years before the events in the movies. And obviously Ood Banar is in those, and he's a major part of those. And that's where I know him from. Very loosely.
I never read any of those, but
I read them, and he's one of the only things I remembered because he looks like Cthulhu.
Bernard basically like grabs Cedrus so that they can free Jim, and then he self-destructs in a force explosion or something to kill Cedrus.
Tree explosion, Groot.
It's weird. And then what should be growing under him?
Oh, gross.
You know how there's baby Groot at the end of Guardians 1? There's a little baby Ood that was left over.
Pretty cool.
But he was also protecting a cache of ancient lightsabers. So like, oh, hey, cool. Now we have dozens of lightsabers to throw around to people.
Pass these out like candy. The Jedi will be back in no time.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, so that's what happens at the end of this little bit. As Mike said earlier, we're not going to spend too much time on the rebellion, but we do go back to this point to Lando, Wedge,
we do
commandos.
have to talk about this part.
We have to. So Wedge and Lando are leading rebel commandos. Sounds good, Mike. Sounds cool. Something I'd like to see in a movie.
No, Lando is not a soldier.
No, he's a general.
He really shouldn't have been a general. He got made a general at the Battle of Endor because they had enough uniforms with general printed on them, not enough bodies to fill them.
They were like, we're short about 10 generals and we have about 5 people. Will you be one of these 5 people? And he's like, well, and they're like, we can make you a blue and khaki cape. Okay.
I did this one thing at the Battle of Tanab.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that maneuver. Did you pull that maneuver in the Lady Luck? That's what I've always thought about. You know what I mean? What was that maneuver?
I don't know. We should.
Was that maneuver in a Corvette or something? I don't know. Question.
I don't know.
My gap in my my knowledge. So, but yeah, we got to talk about this. So they're on this mission, Mike, like you said, for the war droids, right? The this subterfuge mission they're on to, as Mike said,
Star Wars Trojan.
As
horse.
Mike said, to sneak in and commandeer and take over this war droid factory, this battle droid factory, sort of thing. And there's a new weapon. The World Devastators are old news, Mike. We got this thing called the Galaxy Gun, and this sounds like
Galaxy
the worst '80s hair metal band ever, or just.
Yeah, if Starlight Intruder was one of the best from
Certainly.
Dark Empire 1,
Galaxy
Gun is one of the worst.
Basically, this is a weapon near Biss that's just out of control. I mean, it's the most comic book stuff, Mike. I'm so glad we're just getting through this stuff. But it's a super weapon.
It's basically just like a cylindrical space station several kilometers long. They really made it look like a gun barrel.
Yes, it looks like the literal barrel of the X-Wing if it was a giant ship.
And yeah. And how this thing works is it fires projectiles that then enter hyperspace, travel to a destination, exit hyperspace, impact something solid, and disintegrate it Dr. Device style. If you have read Ender's Game, you might know that.
Yes.
It's basically like a molecular degeneration of a planet.
But after it's traveled through essentially warp speed or warp space, which is ridiculous. So this is what we're talking about, guys. This is full, as Mike said, crank it to 10 or 12 and full comic book. Inconsistent with Star Wars, because now we're even breaking the loose rules of Star Wars. Like Star Wars has loose rules with hyperspace and stuff, but like hyperspace serves the story in Star Wars for people to get places and, you know, for ships not to crash into each other or whatever.
This is Nintendo 64 video game.
Star Fox.
Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark.
No, Perfect Dark. This is the long shot sniper rifle.
Yeah, the OP.
On Star Wars steroids. That was a game we played a long time ago together.
Yeah.
it was a sniper rifle that lets you zoom in and shoot through walls across the map and kill people. That's kind of what the Galaxy gun is doing here. Palpatine thinks he can just snipe entire planets from the center of the galaxy, and he doesn't even really worry about the rebels much because he knows, they're on my schedule for 10:30. I'm going to wipe them out with this thing in one shot. No big deal.
That's right. And of course, at this point, Palpatine finds out about Cedrus and Gore's deaths. So he just replaces them with 2 new Sith acolytes. Tendra Shah and I don't even know how to pronounce this other guy's name. XECR Neist. Zerneist. And he empowers them with the Force.
Yeah, I never figured out how to pronounce it when I was reading.
But that's all right. At this point, we have the rebel commandos infiltrating, and the war droid shipment arrives. And the rebels use these droids to attack the Emperor's citadel. And at first, it's working. And the droids are superior to the stormtroopers and the defenses of Biss. But
oh god, we have to talk about this.
I'm
too.
so ready to talk about this. This is my favorite, least favorite part of this. Does that make sense? like this is like my favorite part of the new Transformers movies. You know what I mean? Like I got to talk about.
I didn't think you had one.
It's like stuff, that all makes me upset, but at least there's a one part I like or something. So the droids are pushing up on the Citadel, and then Palpatine and his people release this defensive measure. I don't even know how to pronounce the name of these, Mike. But like the part before their actual name.
The chrysalids?
Chrysalids. That's what I was. Yeah, I was. So
this is me dealing with the chrysalids.
You pouring a drink. Okay.
If you heard that.
Yeah. So the chrysalids are chrysalid rancors. If you guys remember the Rancor, the Rancor, Jabba's Harryhausen monster in the pit of his palace. Let's talk about what these are, Mike. They're Sith alchemy on Rancors.
I don't know what they are.
That's what they kind of were described. They were described as Sith alchemy to make Rancors nearly invulnerable, crazed versions of Rancors.
And honestly, reading the comic, I don't think they directly even say they're Rancors. They just call them chrysalids. I'm supposed to infer that these
visually
are
they
Rancors. They don't. They look sort of like them, but not enough for me to be certain.
They're
these
like
things,
green specter Rancors.
And then they start eating the war droids.
Yeah, so the rebels are foiled basically by Rancors. The teeth are so strong they can chew through Viper armor, and that we've been told in the story at this point, the Viper armor is the strongest armor in the galaxy of these new war droids. And they turn the battle in favor of the Empire, and it causes the rebels to retreat. And they just attack anything in sight.
Oh yeah, that's why Han's ex-girlfriend and what's his name from Dark Empire 1 were there, because he couldn't figure out a way for Lando and Wedge and the rebels to escape, so he had to create these characters to just happen to be there to rescue him. That's what happened.
And here's Mike. Here's a tidbit. I just looked up Chrysalis Rancors on Wikipedia, of course, and the last sentence of this article says other creatures were mutated to Chrysalis beasts as well. Were Gundarks, Katarns, and Vornskers. So who knows? Who knows?
Stupid. Well, okay, fine. If we're gonna talk,
hey, to be fair though, I told you this is my favorite of the least favorite parts. I like seeing Rancors tearing up battle droids with their teeth.
Okay, well, if you made me sit through that, I didn't want to spend this much time on these stupid side plots. But I'm gonna. Yes, we are, because Han and Leia escape Nar Shaddaa, and they hide. The Falcon is damaged. Basically, Han crashed into Boba Fett and broke off like the left prong of the ship.
Yeah.
And they go into this nebula to hide, where they just happen upon a pre-hyperspace civilization that's living on ships.
Right.
That they literally describe as steam powered.
Wow.
So stupid.
This guy wanted to get everything out. He's like, this is my one shot to get everything I want.
For real. And then So Han and Leia like meet this guy, or
This
they meet
guy.
I forget who these people are called. God. Anyway, they get the Falcon repaired with ancient technology that they call the
Ganath.
lightning cannon.
Nebula World
Ganath.
of Ganath.
That's yes.
And
there you are.
guess what, Mike? Their ruler is a Jedi Knight.
Kinda. If you took
Yeah.
the ball droid interrogation droid from like
Dr. Ball
Dr. Ball
from New Hope, the one that
Made
tortures
it-
Leia
made him
for,
big
the,
and
for
like-
the non-fanatical people at home. The ball droid that tortures Leia in New Hope.
Yeah, if you took that
This is so wrong.
shape and
This is
aesthetic
so wrong.
of a droid,
Mixed it with Kirby.
but made it human
mixed
size.
with Kirby from Nintendo.
Yeah. Made it human size, gave it tiny arms,
No.
and stuck like from the nose up of a human head on there. Yes, that sounded crazy, and it was. But this is a Jedi Knight who is encased in ancient droid technology to keep him alive. His name is Empatogeos Brand, and it is the single dumbest character I have ever seen in Legends.
Guess what? He was a Jedi Padawan of Jedi Master Yaddle.
Good God.
And he's barely
He,
survived the Jedi Purge.
Yeah, he was like left for dead and then rescued by these people. He floats around. So he's like literally a sphere
With the head.
part of a
Human
head
head.
and some nubby arms attached to.
Oh, gosh.
But he becomes a major character in the story. And it's so bad. But back to Luke, right? Can we go back to Luke?
This guy was
they left-
relevant to Luke. We'll come back to this at the end, I suppose.
Fine.
But yeah, back to Luke. What happens with Luke now at this point, Mike? I'm all
I don't know.
I'm all turned around. Let's talk about battle meditation again, right? So Luke explains.
I think
to
this is
people-
maybe made a bigger deal in the audio book than in the comic because I read the words battle meditation, but it was never expanded upon how that was important.
Okay. Well, basically, battle meditation is a force ability that boosts morale, stamina, and the battle mindset of individual allies around the Jedi. And if it's powerful enough, it can erode the opposing side's will to fight. If it's like serious battle meditation. So it's kind of like Jedi meditating, and you're buffing your allies and you're debuffing and weakening your enemies. So it's a nerdy kind of take on this guy bringing some D&D stuff in the game or something. But Luke talks about that because he's been learning about it over time on Coruscant, and now he's learned about it at these Jedi archives, this Jedi library. And they just mentioned the story. He's leveled up. He knows battle meditation now better.
That's
That's
true,
one of
yeah.
our questions. So there you go. In a way, something we look at.
Yeah. So while this is happening, the Emperor fires the galaxy gun
course.
and destroys Pinnacle Base and kills all of the rebels.
Which is pretty intense. So this is actually a part of the story I like when it comes to Luke, because Luke and Cam have this moment of fear, anger, all this stuff, because they think all the other rebels / Luke's family, his best friends, have been killed. And of course, Leia's son with Leia, right? So
Yeah.
that upsets Luke momentarily, but it does.
Yeah, it really does feel like it's momentary. So
Probably longer in the audiobook. Once again, a little bit shorter in the comic.
Yeah.
It's like, what, 2 panels? He's like, nah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
So basically everybody ends up regrouping.
Of course.
What the hell is this place called? Space stations above Nespis 8.
Right.
An ancient abandoned space station that was abandoned for some reason, whatever.
Right.
Everybody regroups there. And guess who we find waiting?
Huh?
Mon Mothma and Akbar and the rest of the rebels that were supposed to be on
Yeah,
Pinnacle
they're
Base.
somewhere else.
All the important people managed to survive. So we were given like 7 pages of, oh man, the rebels are in dire straits. They just lost a bunch of important people. Oh, wait, nope, never mind. No explanation as to how they escape. Just just kidding. We still need them. So people like them. We don't even need them for the story, but people like them. So we're going to keep them around here.
That's very true. But so everybody reconvenes on this old space station, and the story finishes with something actually pivotal to Legends and important, which is the birth of Han and Leia's third child, Anakin Solo, is born. And he was obviously named after his grandfather, Anakin Skywalker. And he is born on the space station. And that's how the story ends. Kind of like, well, things are looking rough for us, but a child was born and most of our leaders are here. So it's all good. And he's only, keep in mind, for you guys following along at home, because I know we just went over Jason and Jaina being born. Anakin's right under 2 years younger than them. So Han and Leia were pretty busy. Let's just say that. But so he's not even 2 years apart from his twin brother and sister. So Jason and Jaina are about a year and a half old, 2 years old, and Anakin's being born. So that kind of keeps you in the loop on their age gap.
I remember the other important thing to Luke that I had accidentally glossed over in my hurry to stop talking about this story. So I mentioned Rafe and Jim that Luke rescued from Osis. I'm going to read a little bit
please
here.
No. Please no.
This is a narration in the comic. More and more, Luke feels drawn to Jim. Her youthful optimism lifts his spirits from the immense burdens of a Jedi Master. Then Jim says, Han and Leia are rebels too. That didn't stop them from finding each other. Then Luke, that's true. I have to admit, you're very special to me, Jim, his best Captain Kirk pacing. And then more narration. What began on Osis has grown stronger with each passing moment, and then Luke makes out with her, and it's
how old
weird.
is she again? Like 17?
Well,
or something?
Yeah, like
Ish.
We're gonna call her 18 to make it. God,
Luke's still young, but this is not. Yeah, let's see. Let's do the math. Luke's about 25 here.
I don't want to do the math. I don't.
Luke's about 25, 26 here, which is probably a little too old, Mike.
Well,
I don't know how old she is, though. That's not.
This person
This is weird.
Just became your teacher, basically. Right. And yeah.
So here's what's interesting.
Thankfully,
Mike, something we haven't added to our questions, which we probably shouldn't, but something we're going to obviously look at over time is Luke's canonical, non-canonical, et cetera, relationships. And we've covered a couple now. We've covered, let's see, what have we covered? Gariel, right?
In Truce at Bakura, yeah. Then there was another one in Heir to the Jedi, right? Maybe. This is the second or third quote-unquote relationship he's had.
The one in the noodle scooter date girl. The girl that called him a little noodle scooter. So he had to break it off.
And they both died.
Both of them, yeah. Right, of course.
Yeah. So what do you think happens to Jim? She also dies. So Luke is 3 for 3 on girlfriends getting killed in 2 different timelines. 2 in Legends and 1 in canon. All his girlfriends get killed.
The end of the Thrawn trilogy, him and Mara started hitting it off a little bit. We'll see where that goes. But and Mara is obviously more of a real character than all of these. But so this is they die, or they're flimsy characters that die, except Mara, who's alive, and we don't know what's happening with her story yet because we haven't gone further in Legends yet. So this is actually further. Wait a second.
Mara Jade exists at this point.
This makes this even weirder because if we're following the canon of the old Legends here, which, like I said, the comics are always...
That's a fun sentence.
Yeah, it's complicated. But like I said, the comics are always kind of loose. Luke kind of has a thing for Mara. Not like he's not romantically attracted to her, but he's like, I like this girl and she's come a long way. And like they have their moment. Like, remember the last part of the Thrawn trilogy is them talking, right, on Coruscant. And then immediately we have this Luke.
This Luke who's like, I became a Jedi Master.
Now I'm dark side
so that
Sith
I
Lord.
could so that I could recruit all the female students, and it is so
After he's
bad.
been a Sith Lord, don't forget, or a Dark Jedi.
Yeah, that's true. This is after he had turned to the dark side.
This is
God,
painful.
we should put that in our opening address. What state is Luke in? Oh yeah, he just came back from the dark side of the Force in like the weakest expression of Luke's willpower we've ever seen.
Right. Like Luke was basically just like, I have to do this because this is the only way, rather than thinking of other methods. So that's how Luke was at the beginning of the story. Glad we mentioned that. So yeah, this is how this story ends, Mike. So what do you think at this point before we jump into Empire's End? This is going to be a unique episode for us because we're going to cover two sources quickly into one. But this is the meaty
I feel like
part.
it's one and a half.
This is the meaty part. Yeah, some interesting stuff, some horrendous stuff. Obviously the horrendous outweighs the interesting.
They have one last encounter with Palpatine's crappy dark acolytes here at this ancient space city, and basically Luke has a team of four or five Jedi. It's Luke, Cam, Rafe, and Jim. And now he has also added Vima, this old creepy looking lady that Han and Leia rescued, and Brand, this mostly robot thing. So he's actually got 6 people. So they handle these dark Jedi things that attack him, but Jim dies like less than 10, it's probably an exaggeration, but 10, 15 pages after making out with Luke. And really that's where they end. The Emperor knows they're there, and he tries to kill them with the galaxy gun. And the galaxy gun bullet impacts and has a faulty timer, so it doesn't detonate. So lucky them, they all live, and then Anakin's born, and that's where Dark Empire 2 technically ends. This is such a bad story.
Wow. Let's move on to the third part of this trilogy.
Let me see how quickly I can do this. Okay, so Empire's End was like 2 issues they added to this with a new artist that was obviously done a lot faster because they didn't actually wrap up the story in the 6 issues.
As you guys
Dark
noticed,
Empire
we didn't talk about Palpatine much in this Dark Empire 2. So in Empire's End, they basically were like, oh yeah, we just keep sending these cannon fodder Sith acolytes at Luke and stuff. Let's actually make him encounter the Emperor one last time, or at least the trio encounter the Emperor.
Yeah, so all of Dark Empire 2 was Palpatine sitting back as a mustache twirling villain, shooting his galaxy gun at people and sending out bodies to get killed, basically. Very, very bad. Stuff happens and a final confrontation is forced where everybody's in the same place.
Before that, I gotta
Leia,
mention the part I do remember this, what I think is super cool, even though it's contrived as well. Of course, the incredible superstar destroyer from the Dark Empire 1 is back, even though it was destroyed by the Force Storm. The Eclipse class.
The Eclipse
2. It just appears out of nowhere. But guess what happens? The most R2 thing ever.
Oh God, I'd forgotten that.
R2 steers.
I'll let you describe this one.
Okay, I don't know how well I can describe this because the story's so brief and incoherent. But R2 does pull an R2 thing. So now we have another insane superstar destroyer of the Palpatine, the Eclipse 2. The Eclipse 2 is steered straight into the galaxy gun by R2D2, and then a projectile from the gun is shot into Biss and blows Biss up.
Yeah, that's a real neat way to wrap up a lingering plot thread.
Yeah, so R2 does some work.
Well, like we said,
some work.
The galaxy gun was like a long cylindrical thing. The Eclipse is, it's a arrowhead shape. It's Star Destroyer, so it just rams into the middle of the galaxy gun and breaks it, and it somehow still manages to fire and destroy Biss for some reason.
Via R2. All this happens via R2, sabotaging the Eclipse.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to talk about that, but you're right. That would have been a dangling plot thread of, oh, well, there's still that super weapon out there. Nope, R2 crashed into it.
And the biggest superstar destroyer ever in the history of superstar destroyers. So it's like 2 giant weapons of the Empire.
So
final confrontation. Let's go.
So Papa Palpy.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where they are when this happens. He's trying to steal Anakin to transfer into his body. What he was trying to do back in Dark Empire 1.
The infant Anakin now, which we know was just born at the end of Dark Empire 2.
And he's got a couple guys with him to help him out. And he ends up fighting Luke and his team of almost Jedi / ancient Jedi.
He defeats most of them.
He defeats most of them.
Including Luke. Stuns Luke on the ground.
He stuns Luke. Leia uses... Okay, let me make sure I get this order of events right. Palpatine grabs Anakin. Leia uses the Force to take Anakin from his arms. Han runs in, shoots Palpatine in the back, and kills him.
Pretty cool. Pretty Han.
Yeah. Because Palpatine at this point is almost dead just because he's in a faulty clone body or something. He was on some sort of death countdown timer.
Right. Probably the
so
clone,
then Palpatine,
clone life timer thing that we've known now.
Yeah. Palpatine tries to transfer his essence into the baby anyway after Han has shot him. Then our hero of the galaxy, not Darth Vader, who was redeemed and destroyed,
the other
Emperor
cyborg
Palpatine,
man,
but Empatijaios Brand, our floating Dr. Ball Kirby kind of dude, he just moves physically into the path of this spirit moving towards the baby. And he's strong enough to not let Palpatine take over his body, but they both can't exist in the same body, so they die.
Right.
And that's it.
Guess what, Mike? I pulled up the Wikipedia on this because I wanted to know more about what happened at that point because it's not very clear in the comic. And here's what it says. I want to see what you think about this. Impajatos chose to make the ultimate sacrifice as he died, willingly clasping his soul to Palpatine's, ensuring that both of them would be pulled into the netherworld of the Force. And at long last, and with the assistance of all the dead Jedi of the past dragging him down, Palpatine was finally and truly killed and laid to rest. So, like, the spirits of the Jedi don't let him escape.
So I'm going to read the page where this
It's
happens.
like the river Styx. Like they're pulling him down into it. He's like, no. Okay, I'm ready. I'm disturbed, but I'm ready.
I'll do my best to do some voices here. Surrender? I think not. Skywalker blood runs dark with the Force. I have chosen this child to inherit the rule of the galaxy. Gross. As he's lunging at the baby that Leia is holding, she says, over my dead body.
Nice.
No, over Palpatine's dead body. And Han shoots him in the back as Luke is trying to stop him. No. And that's when he tries to transfer into the body. But it's like, they literally did that. Over my dead body. No, over his dead body.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's bad.
What if Lando showed up and is like, no, one more dead body, and just shoots him?
This deal keeps getting worse.
And then Chewie just comes and does a Wookiee roar and shoots him. That would have been great. This could be a Robot Chicken skit. It really could, with a little bit of work.
You know, Chewie was not in this at all after his fight with Boba Fett.
A mistake.
Yeah. So
Palpatine's
they used two
down.
issues to force the conclusion of Dark Empire. Right. Dark Empire 1 is a little out there.
But it's fine.
But is a conceivable enough story to fit in Star Wars Legends. Dark Empire 2 and Empire's End are...
Cash grab?
I was going to say batshit crazy, but
they clearly were like, hey, guess what, guys? Guess what? Dark Empire 1 did well. Our first Star Wars comic ever. Churn out the sequels really fast. Go. That's what it was. Because Dark Empire 1 was a huge success. And then the Thrawn trilogy came out, which was a huge success. And they were kind of on a Star Wars Legends high because nothing had really existed other than the adventure stuff we talked about. So they were just kind of cash grabbing.
Oh, I forgot to read the last panel on that page.
The Jedi will rise again.
The Corellian has killed me. I feel it. I am done. It is time to enter the child as I promised. Who will kill you now, Han Solo? Your own son.
Wow. So specific.
So
I don't think Palpatine.
So bad. Okay, let's put a bow on this thing.
Let's move on. Yeah.
We talked about Luke at the beginning. Luke does a lot in this entire Dark Empire arc. He goes to the dark side, comes back, gets a bunch of students, makes out with one, and kills the Emperor. So how do the events and characters he encounters impact his development as a hero? Thank God they don't. Right?
That's true. Yeah. I will say my only pushback to some of that is when he goes to Ossus, he does save a lot of people that are under the Sith influence, and he kind of wakes some of the tribal people up to what's happening to them, and he tells them about the Force. There is some consistencies with Luke, and you know, Cam's like, I'm a Padawan, what do I do? And Luke's like, well, I'm kind of figuring out things myself too, my friend. So kind of follow my lead, but I'm no expert. So that I like that part too. But you know, you're right, Mike. Thank God they don't, because this is not. Those things are consistent with Luke and the way he interacts with Leia, especially at the end of Dark Empire 1, which I think is great, where he tricks Han and Leia like, hey, I'm not actually with you. I stayed back to sacrifice myself. I projected myself onto your shuttle. Bye. Like, that's very consistent with Luke as well. But in these stories, Luke is just rushed, and he is too powerful, and he's weird and creepy, and it's just not Luke.
And any good thing he did is undone by the fact that he made out with his potentially underaged student.
That's so true.
And then she died, so he got her killed.
Also, spoiler alert, especially in Legends, like, Luke's not one to just... No, that's not consistent with Luke at all. Like, he's not one to, like, move fast in a relationship or just start making out with somebody or whatever. Like, that's weird in itself. He's never done that before. He's never done that.
Yeah, all of this is weird. Our last question, would Luke's experiences in this story make him different than Luke we meet in The Last Jedi? Good God, yes, it would. And thank God that none of this mattered.
Right. You're so right, Mike. And I will reference, like we said before in Dark Empire 1, if Luke did go to the dark side in the new canon somewhere, which I think potentially he could have, that is interesting with the Luke in The Last Jedi. And that is probably consistent with Luke we see in The Last Jedi, but not in this way. And then all the things that happen in Dark Empire 2 and Empire's End, no, absolutely not. And not the way Luke goes to the Empire either. So Empire, not the way Luke goes to the dark side either. That's incorrect. But he very well could have gone to the dark side in moments, like we've seen now in some of the legend stories that were done well, where Luke has a moment of the dark side where he feels the cold take over, like on Mindor, and he strikes out, and then he catches himself and pulls himself back out of it. That's good.
Well, and that's a good point. I'm going to build on it a little bit. So in Dark Empire 1, Luke turned to the dark side after hearing a sales pitch from
For a couple days
that took half a page.
Yeah. But it was actually a couple days in the timeline.
Cool.
Yeah,
still
weird.
That's not Luke Skywalker. No. I like what you said about some of those other brushes we had. I think the only brush Luke ever had, canon Luke ever had with the dark side, was that night in Ben Solo's tent.
Well, and obviously when it cuts off Vader's hand as well.
Well, no, okay, I meant after Return of the Jedi.
You think that's the only one?
But I think that was it. That was the one, because if he had previous encounters with the dark side,
better.
Yeah. And I'm sure he might have been tempted, but knew it was powerful enough to resist it. But that was the only time he was ever tempted for a fleeting second, and we saw the implications of it in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I think that's the only time that he was ever tempted again.
Well, there you go. Let's put a bow on this story, Mike, because I want to move away from. Here's the good news. We're going to be done with Legends comics for a while because we're only covering the major comics with you guys. We're going to cover the books because the books, like I said, were considered way higher priority story points. For good reason.
Yeah.
For good reason. But remember these names, remember these planets, because we will return.
Well, and to be fair, Dark Empire 1 is fine.
Right.
If you just consider it by itself.
Yeah, it's fun. The audiobooks
we went ahead and did 2, and Empire's End just to finish out the story.
Oh my!
And they are not fine. They are not fine at all.
Yeah, and my last
not-
bookend on this Empire's End story is there's a picture with Leia on one of these cover arts, and I guess Mike, since you have the digital copies, you don't have the cover arts, which is truly a shame because these cover arts are really brilliant stuff. I mean, they're these paintings of the main characters with the World Devastators and stuff in the background. I know you're familiar with them, but I actually have the book right here in front of me. But this Empire's End one has Leia on the front, and it has those insect battle droids in the background. But Leia looks not like herself. And what's funny is I was reading it, rereading it recently, of course, drinking a coffee, rereading it, and I'm sitting in my at my table reading it, and my wife just walks by and goes, "Why is John Travolta on the front of your Star Wars book that looks vaguely like Leia?" So there you go. Leia's hair is slicked back. It's very Pulp Fiction-esque, and she called it as it is, and I love it. So I got to mention that.
Okay, well, that'll do it for the Dark Empire saga. We're gonna flush that turd. Hey. Let's get that out of here by doing something
positive,
something new and something good. We have a new promotion for patrons of the Canon Cantina. Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This week, we're recommending Dark Apprentice by Kevin J. Anderson. It's the second book in the Jedi Academy trilogy. We did Jedi Search last week.
That's right.
As our recommendation. This week, we're going to recommend Dark Apprentice Book 2. In 2 weeks, we're going to start that trilogy. So use this as some time to read ahead and get there. So if you've recently read Dark Apprentice or just want to try something else, you can download any audiobook for free by trying out audible.com. But to get your free audiobook and trial today, go to www.audibletrial.com/thecanoncantina. Again, that's www.audibletrial.com/thecanoncantina. All right, now that that's done, we're going to go back to a segment that we did in one of our first few episodes that I like. We haven't done it in a while, though. The Blue Milk Bar. This is introducing Star Wars to your younglings. I have a youngling, so I plan to be... last time we talked about some of the youngling style books that I've been reading to him, but this is like official big, like
this is big.
Big Star Wars news, I guess. There's a Star Wars Kids YouTube channel now, and they have launched a series called Galaxy of Adventures. And right now there are 6 or 7 of these like minute-and-a-half long adventures available. And just to give you an idea of what this thing is, in case you haven't seen the trailer, if you haven't, you should. They're worth watching. Just search YouTube for Galaxy of Adventures. They have taken audio from the original trilogy,
right,
and matched it up with new animation to tell these stories of heroes and adventures, basically in a kid-friendly way.
Yeah, in a more concise way too, right, Mike?
Yeah,
and I'll expand on that. It's more than just the original trilogy. It's the prequels as well, and some of Clone Wars, and some of Rebels. Actually, this
cool.
is
I actually hadn't watched that far. I've only seen the first one, which is about Luke,
right?
And I saw that it was original trilogy dialogue. That one about Luke, and then the the trailer kind of.
So here's what's pretty cool for us, Mike, as lore and canon fans. This is obviously expanding the canon and the lore of Star Wars. So it's across all eras, and it, as Mike said, is audio from the films, but also audio more than just from the shows. It's actually like they got the voice actors from the Clone Wars and Rebels and things like that to come back on and do these segments. And
I need to watch some of those because I don't know that any of this is original, and that's a sticking point I had with it. So
that might make
sense.
We
were just going to talk about what do we think about this. I think it's neat. The animation is cool. It's like cartoony with anime influence.
I'm probably getting this and Forces of Destiny both mixed up in my mind because Forces of Destiny is the same sort of thing, but it's original content.
You absolutely are.
Content.
Okay, and that's a good distinction. So Forces of Destiny came out last year. They've had 2 seasons of it now. Each episode of that is a little bit longer, and those are original stories. This, I think, is all recycled audio. So this feels like a cash grab to me.
It does, but I feel like in a way, with fans, it's safer because it's like if you take Obi-Wan dialogue and show new animation to it, or take Yoda dialogue, do a new animation to it, people recognize the dialogue from, say, Empire or whatever, and then they get to see something visually different. I don't know. It's a good point though, Mike.
Well, and we're Star Wars fans. At this point, we're okay with cash grabs because so much of Star Wars is a cash grab. You know, we bought so many toys and everything that, you know, we don't need or whatever. So like, I'm okay with it, but it does feel just a little cheap, because it feels almost like the style of the recycled audio from the movies and the dialogue from there doesn't quite fit with the new animation style. It's not bad by any means. I'm not trying to like dump it. I do enjoy these. I just feel like it could have been done a little better with some original audio and voice acting like the Forces of Destiny series was. But if you're telling stories with classic characters,
Moments from
like Luke and Han and key moments from the movies, then you would get people complaining that, well, why didn't they just use the original audio and original actors? So I guess I see why they did it.
That's true. And something that's, I guess, probably not really a rebuttal to you on this, Mike, but something to add to it is there is narration from some young actor
That's true.
that kind of is describing the scene. So far they've done a couple segments of different characters. So Mike mentioned the Luke segment. So we have actually dialogue from Alec Guinness and moments with Luke's lines, but then we also have narration. Same with the Vader, Chewbacca, some of the R2D2, some of the other bits in this. So it's kind of like, Mike, a way to show your kids scenes from Star Wars with, if they're not ready maybe for the full scenes,
Which
it's
is
like narrating
what
it
I will
and using the audio.
use it for.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
they redid the entire
And-
Wampa scene in this. And I loved it.
So I believe that it's not some young voice actor doing the narration. It is Dante Bosco, Rufio
Really?
from Hook.
Really?
Yeah.
How did he get this job?
I don't know. I just remember reading that somewhere, and I think that is correct.
But a good example, Mike, here is we have another scene that's Luke versus the Wampa. And it's, of course, super stylized. It's more dramatic. The way Luke fights the Wampa is a little bit more intense. And the narrator basically tells what Luke's going through in the scene. But it's kind of like we're seeing a new animated version of the Luke versus Wampa scene.
Yeah.
That's kind of what these are like.
Yeah. So I guess my final word is I like it. I just wish that it was more in the vein of Forces of Destiny with original dialogue and stuff.
I agree there.
And sound effects and all that. Because I like the new animation style, and I get why they did it. I guess I just wish it was, a little more. Instead of just original visuals, get some original sound too.
Yeah, that's probably true. But the animation is really neat. Who knows?
Yeah, like I said, I've only watched the Luke one so far. I do intend to watch the rest of them. The youngling is still a little too small to be watching this stuff, just because, we are trying to limit the screen time and all that stuff.
Right.
These things are short enough that
This could be good.
they're probably not too damaging, but these will definitely be used as indoctrination videos when he's a little older to make sure he likes Star
Well,
Wars.
there you go. That's what the Blue Milk Bar is for, indoctrination videos.
The Blue Milk Bar sounds way nicer than indoctrination into fandom.
Yeah, what's the line for Finn? He needs to go back to reconditioning.
Oh yeah.
That's what these videos need to be. You need to go to your room and rewatch the Galaxy of Star Wars Kids channel.
Oh no.
There you go.
What else do we have on the show today, Jesse?
Let's move on.
Think. You want to make that move. You want to make that move. You made that move, okay.
I guess I'll have to destroy that little guy.
Somehow I never get bored with winning. No, you can't wipe them off. They're holograms. Hey, Chewie, relax. Hey.
All right, guys, that's right. We are back once again at the Dejarik table. As you heard Woody cue you in. So today on the Dejarik table, we are talking about, once again, Battlefront 2. But this time, we actually have tangible things to talk about, Mike, because Grievous is out. Geonosis is out. The squad changes are out. And Obi-Wan is out now. So a lot. And new skins for Grievous and Obi-Wan as well. So what happened this past weekend was the Geonosis weekend, which was a special event in Battlefront 2, which I talked about in past episodes with you guys recently. That was a double XP weekend that focused on prequel era content and Geonosis to basically welcome Grievous, Obi-Wan, and the new map into the rotation. And on top of that, Mike and I launched our stream this past weekend in full. I've been telling you to follow it for some time. That is twitch.com. Not .com, twitch.tv/the Canon Cantina. I always do that. Twitch.tv/the Canon Cantina. And if you could follow us there, that would be great. You don't have to watch us all the time, but just so you followed us for future content, because we even have it now where it cues our previous streams in the video area. So if you guys want to watch some of my videos from this past weekend, I streamed Geonosis completely rough. Like I was figuring out the stream while also trying to play a game I haven't played in quite some time on a new map that has really amazing dust and line of sight effects. Like when those towers start falling, you can't see. So clearly, if you're not leveled up like I am and not as good at the game as everyone else in that community, it's a rough time. So you guys can watch me have a rough time in that game. But, you know, I did have some fun time in Heroes vs. Villains, fighting Grievous, playing as Grievous. I had some fun time as Yoda. You guys can see that on the stream. But what happened was there was a whole weekend of Battlefront 2 content, and hopefully you guys got to join us. We promoted it before the streams happened, and then hopefully you guys got to watch on the streams. We've actually got pretty high numbers from our first weekend of the stream, Mike, so I'm thrilled.
Are those archived on YouTube?
Not yet, but there's a way to sync them, so we're going to do that.
Okay. So Jesse's selling himself short a little bit. He's put in a lot of work figuring out how to stream from his PC, texting me just at random times. Hey, how's it look now? And I'd go and look at
How's
it.
the frame rate?
How's the frame rate? Things are a little blurry still or whatever, but he's put in a lot of work. Did a great job. And he's selling his ability short a little bit too, because I tried to play the Geonosis map.
Sure.
It's not streamed because I have it on PlayStation and I haven't connected that to our Twitch account yet or anything. I suck so hard at this game.
Like on your team of 20, where do you land on the 20?
I didn't even finish the map because I was so frustrated because I sucked so hard.
See, I suck too, unless I'm playing like Officer or Heavy. But if I play like those guys, especially Officer, I do well. Something about the support class I really enjoy in that game. I really enjoy that.
I did give each of the classes a try. The one map I was on, I was a battle droid.
Right.
Always on fun. The CIS side. And it is very well done.
Oh, it's the best map in the game. I'm pretty confident about that on the Galactic Assault stuff.
I just suck so bad at the game that it was frustrating, and everybody who was killing me, I was seeing they'd have like maxed out upgrades, max level stuff. Like I've mentioned on previous episodes, my favorite parts of Battlefront are the Starfighter assault missions.
Right.
I'm much better at those. And I was just so frustrated with the Geonosis map and like not knowing what to do or where to go. Right. And then just, oh, hey, you got killed by somebody on the other side of that dust cloud. I was like, I'm going to go play anything else instead.
Yeah, and my forte is heroes versus villains because it's quick, and I really enjoy playing the different heroes and villains. I still have not mastered any of them, so it's really fun to play that. But my quick assessment of Geonosis, Mike, for you and for anyone listening at home is it's a galactic map, so it is linear, even though it's massive. And what's really cool is you can look on the size of the map, and it's that huge battle you see in Attack of the Clones. Like you see thousands of clones and stuff, which is great. But the mission's kind of interesting. If you're the clones, you take over an ATE by the actual Geonosian hive, and the Geonosians are running away in fear. And you capture an ATE, and then you take the ATE to attack the droid control ships that are on the ground and the fuel pods. And then you call the Republic on a comm system, and they drop ATEs as well. And they drop other speeders and weapons for you. Essentially, the Republic's on the offense and the CIS is on the defense. And your goal as a CIS is to destroy all the ATTs. And then your goal as the Republic is to make your way across the entire huge map without losing too many ATTs, and then destroy their control ships and fuel pods within a certain allotted time. And that's basically it.
It's very well made. I will give it a try at some other point. It had been a long time since I had played any non-Starfighter modes, and I was like, I have played video games for almost probably like 25 years of my life. I should not be this bad
right.
at video games anymore. All you kids, get off my lawn and stop sniping me from across the map.
That's so funny.
So I'll have to give it a try.
Yeah, there's a lot of just like spawning and dying. There is that. And that is frustrating. And you know what's really frustrating, Mike, is playing the speeders and tanks on a PC. In some ways, the PC is dramatically better for the shooting aspects, in my opinion. But for the speeders, starships, and tanks, it is rough. I was using the Trade Federation tanks this weekend, which you know is one of my favorite vehicles in Star Wars. Very iconic vehicle and fun to drive in the game, but so hard to control on the PC controls. So much better on a controller. That's for sure. So there's nice ups and downs, but the good news, Mike, is if you guys followed me on the stream, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you watching me not do too good, get about probably 8th or 9th place on the team of 20 on my good side games, and further down.
Hey man, top half.
Yeah, top half. And that's fine because I don't have top upgrades, so I'll take that. But I was also managing the stream and trying to make sure all that was going well on other screens on my TV, my monitor. But on top of that, you guys saw me get enough credits, maybe the last second, Mike, the last 5 minutes of the last stream, I unlocked Obi-Wan. So I've yet to play him, but I have him unlocked.
I'm surprised that you agreed to record tonight instead of just playing Battlefront.
Yeah, I might be streaming after this, so I will let the Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook know. And something we haven't done yet, but we'll start posting on Facebook as well, the Twitch. I think, Mike, there's a way to sync Twitch to Facebook Live as well, potentially. So,
yes, and if you have Twitch, the Twitch app on your phone, and you subscribe to our channel, you'll get a notification whenever it goes live.
Right. But I did.
So that's another way.
Yeah, that's another way. And I did play Obi-Wan in arcade and absolutely loved him. And not because he's one of my favorite characters, or not because, as Mike says, I look like him, but the way he plays is very much my style. He hits slow and he's very defensive. And I like that a lot. But yeah, Obi-Wan is a huge blast. And obviously James Arnold Taylor is doing the voice, which is incredible. Oh, something, Mike, I got to mention. Oh, I don't know if you've seen this yet in the game, but Obi-Wan taunts people, which is so Obi-Wan. He mainly taunts Grievous, but I did encounter this in the game. He taunts Kylo, which is kind of a world-breaking thing, but he says that weapon you hold...
So is heroes versus villains.
Right. He says that weapon you hold looks like a child made it.
Nice. Does he say hello there?
He does say hello
Anytime
there.
he sees Grievous?
Yeah, that's one of his taunts. So you can just spam that
Nice.
over and over again. So,
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's start wrapping the show up. We have 2 reviews to read today. Thank you so much to everybody that has been writing us reviews on Apple Podcasts. And I forgot to look anywhere else this week, honestly. Sorry. We've got a backlog of things to read from iTunes.
but yeah, every time you guys give us those, like I've said on the show before, it helps us out dramatically. Just if you give us a star review is great, but if you write a review, it's even better. So we're going to continue to read you guys' reviews till we get through all of them. So keep giving us reviews so we can keep reading them. This is going good so far. We haven't stopped reading them yet, Mike.
And keep making them funny, because this first one today,
Oh man, it's so good.
It is our second funniest review ever.
Right. What's the first?
The one from a couple weeks ago that called Jesse the sex appeal and me the hot take hammer is absolutely accurate and the funniest thing we've had. Our first review today comes from Brinny1995, just titled "May the Force Be With You." This podcast is always great with a box
Yes.
of wine and a bubble bath, not bottle,
Box of wine and a bubble bath. So
apparently it takes a box of
to get
wine
through our sultry
to be able.
tones.
I was going to say to be able to, listen to the ridiculous hot takes I throw out from time
That's
to
basically
time.
what I meant. But yeah,
you're
I was sugarcoating it. That's pretty good. I
So-
love this review. Thank you, Brittany, for this. I've got another review.
okay. Next week, before you read that review, next week we're going to record the podcast with a box of wine while in a bubble bath. No, I'm
I'd
just
love
kidding.
that. Let's try it out. It seems complicated. Got to get some phantom
Just move your
power to that
computer
tub.
into the bathroom. It's fine.
Get some phantom power to that tub from my condenser mic, but we'll figure it out. So the second review is from Rambo456, titled "A Great Star Wars Podcast." The guys that create this show clearly love Star Wars and the character of Luke Skywalker. Time and effort is put in here. Subscribed and looking forward to future episodes. Good content and a good weekly show.
I appreciate that. We
This is
are
good.
doing our best to have episodes weekly every Thursday. We've missed it a couple times in the past few weeks. We're going to miss it with this episode again.
When you say miss it, we're not missing the weekly moniker.
I'm saying we're going to miss our Thursday release
That's
day.
okay.
We are working on a lot of things behind the scenes that we're not quite ready to talk about yet. And as of us recording this, I start a new job tomorrow, so that has also sort of affected the release day. We might have to tweak a few things, but we definitely appreciate the review and rating, Rambo.
That's right. And I got a part-time job now playing our stream poorly, so I will continue doing that. So Mike just laughs at me. We're gonna get there, guys. I'm gonna level up those classes so I can at least be on the same level as everybody else, and then still perform lower than everybody else. But at least my upgrades will be on the same level as everybody else, and I'll have a chance.
You'll run out of excuses then. Oh no.
I might move up to position 6. So there you go. But Rambo, thank you for the kind words. This reminds me a lot of our review last week. I don't remember the person's name, but the person that said that we sound like we've been doing this a long time and that we sound professional. These sort of reviews,
I don't know about the professional part, but
they said that last week. So
like we've said, Jesse and I, we've
Years.
been having these conversations for 25 years. We just decided to record
Right.
them, and surprisingly, some of you listen. So thank you.
yeah, and 4 years, Mike and I had separate gaming podcasts, like we've mentioned in the past. Vader's Finest and the 3.2 Company. If any of you guys listened from that, thank you for jumping over to here. I really appreciate that and would love to talk to you. But I think we've improved and we'll continue to improve. And we got a lot of stuff in the works that we're ready to talk to you guys about when the day comes. And it's happening. Don't worry. Lots going on.
All right. So that'll do it for this episode of the Canon Cantina podcast. Go to thecanoncantina.com for links to all of our social media, and you can listen to the show there as well. You can also watch Jesse play our Twitch stream as well. It's embedded on the watch page of our
Yes, that's
website. You can just go over and watch
And
it
host
there.
pages as well,
open up-
Mike. Host page.
Oh yeah, check out the host pages because I wrote some funny stuff there. You can also find links to our Discord server there, where you can chat with us and submit questions or topics. I didn't give the people in Discord a lot of notice today before we recorded. So the best question we got from user Nova9, the question they wanted us to answer was pineapple on pizza, yes or no? And then they said there is a right answer.
This is a baited question. There's no winning this question. This is a
no, there's not.
This is a there's fanatics on both sides of this, and people don't like my
heroes on both sides.
People don't like my answer to this, Mike, and my answer to this is sometimes. So I've never ordered I've never ordered a pineapple pizza, but anytime someone's handed me one or there's been a fresh hot slice on a buffet, I've eaten it and enjoyed it. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I'm not a fanatic for it, but I also don't hate it. I have seen an incredible prequel meme on this. It's the iconic scene with Palpatine after he's speaking to the Senate after his encounter with Mace Windu, and he's been destroyed by the Sith lightning, and his encounter with Anakin, and Anakin turning to the dark side and all that. And it says, when you bite into a piece of pizza that you think is Canadian bacon and you bite into a pineapple, and it says, the attempt on my life has left me scarred and deformed. And I thought that was the most incredible meme on the planet. I showed it to my dad and he loved it.
So my answer is yes, I like pineapple on pizza at good pizza.
So kind of similar to my answer.
For example, there's a local place that we don't get to go to all the time. It's kind of far from where we live now, but it's called the Mellow Mushroom. Okay. And they have a pizza that it's not just your, Canadian bacon and pineapple. It's Canadian bacon, regular bacon.
I knew you were going to say
pineapple,
bacon, yeah.
and jalapeno on it.
Balancing act.
It's a great pizza. So when a good pizzeria with high quality ingredients and like creative recipes makes it, yeah. But I'll also eat it from Pizza Hut if that's what people order.
Right.
So I don't think it ruins pizza like so many does.
But you don't necessarily order it religiously or anything like that, like some of the pineapple.
Not religiously, but every now and then I will. So Nova 9, if we answered wrong, we hope you still listen to the podcast anyway.
I agree.
You can just hate us for our pizza choices.
But that meme is worth everything, so I like it. But once again, guys, the Canon Cantina is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, Podcast Addict, YouTube, and Spotify. Keep spreading the word of our show by subscribing, rating, and reviewing. Keep leaving us those Apple Podcast reviews. Even if you just have another Apple device in your house, like your significant others, if you can just give us a review on that, it's
their phone and click 5 stars.
It's really helpful to us. You would not believe it because turns out, Mike, there's hundreds and hundreds of Star Wars podcasts, and then there's thousands and thousands of regular podcasts. So every time you guys give us a review, you help us show up on the Apple algorithm.
If you steal their phone and click 1 star, just make sure to take the time to write a really funny review.
Please do. And if you guys think we can do something better and you actually have some constructive criticism or something you'd like to see on the show, email us at canoncantina@gmail.com. Once again, you can find us on social media at The Canon Cantina. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and now Twitch. So The Canon Cantina. And join us next week as we take a detour and we have some really, really incredible guests on the show as we talk Star Wars film. And we'll just leave you guys with that.
That's right. We needed another week to start reading the Jedi Academy trilogy. So we're going to have some guests on next week. Thanks for joining us here in the Canon Cantina, everybody. Cheers.
May the Force be with you.
Boring conversation anyway.